welcome back to the channel, everybody. We are going to be diving into some of the DLC items today. I was able to get a moment just to do a couple of exhibits just so we can explore some of the new pieces, some of the new animals. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're actually joined today by a pretty special guest. Say hello.
Hello.
Hey girl, hey. What you doing?
I'm watching you.
Okay, cool. I'm just chilling. So
Cool.
we'll go ahead and kind of take a look around a little bit. This is actually kind of out of my typical wheelhouse, I guess, so to speak. Just because I've used a lot of pieces as they were intended, which is not my gig, never been my gig, never will be my gig. But nonetheless, we did it anyways. Before we get looking though, have you had a chance to play around in any of the DLC yet?
I haven't really gotten a chance to play with any of like the new animals, which is probably something I should have done, but all the pieces are pretty cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
same. I mean, I've never really been huge on building exhibits. Like I'll put together some exhibits for Plaza and some stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But my joys from the game really stem from like the architecture and plants and stuff like that.
Same.
Really everything but the animals, which is weird, but whatever. But for example, I've used some of these I literally don't play the game. I don't even know what these are. These educational boards. There we go.
There you go.
So they came out with these like super awesome pieces. And yeah, I actually used them as intended and they're lovely. I love them.
They look great.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of these new pieces in the game have like a rustic effect to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can kind of see down here on the bottoms of the beams. And they're very worn and rugged. I mean, they hit the nail on the head. It's very like Australian Outback. Like, I love it. I think it's so awesome.
Yeah, it looks great.
So another cool feature that they gave us is some new path textures. And you actually probably can't even tell, but the terrain paint and the path texture are so close that we actually have, I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit, we actually have some, like the path here is not, I don't even know, that like conducive? No, that's not the right word. What word am I looking for, Remnant?
I don't know.
Put him on the spot.
But I know what you're saying.
We have holes. We have holes in the pathing, but typically like in the past you would be able to see it and it blends really, really well.
It really does.
So that satisfies me because you can make like some really awesome plazas, kind of like how we've done over here.
Yeah.
And there's actually a lot of areas where the path isn't connected, but you wouldn't really be able to tell because it all blends very, very well.
Yeah, it looks great. I love it.
So we'll kind of get started looking around here. I guess my inspiration for this was a building very similar to what you're looking at with like the corrugated roofs, with the like the faded text that was on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what inspired this little area. So we used a lot of the new wooden pieces. Again, everything that's basically covered in like this very aged and weathered rustic look, like these new fence pieces. This piece here is actually a piece for the educational boards as well.
Okay.
We've just kind of leaned it up against the wall here as if it was just abandoned at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the same thing. I really wanted this portion of it to look overgrown. But I love the contrast of how nice and neat this little flower bed is,
mm-hmm.
and then how worn everything is back behind here.
Yeah, for sure.
It kind of gives me the vibe that everything was built around, like the oldest thing here is this building.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see later on it was converted to actual usable space for the guests. But yeah, I wanted to kind of keep intact that this was old, like rustic, busted. You know what I mean? It was just accumulated. Like this land was accumulated at some point in time, and they put like a little roadside exhibit. So our first little animal that we are going to look at here is the southern, what is it? The southern cassowary or something?
Casserole?
Cassowary? Sure. Casserole. Yeah, the southern casserole.
That's what I've been saying in my head every time I see it.
I've had a bunch of those in my day growing up in
Southern
Alabama
casserole.
and Georgia. So yeah, Southern
Nice.
casseroles. They're very, very beautiful.
They are.
Except when they're hissing at you like that.
Yeah, coming toward the camera.
Right. You know I do not like birds, right?
Yes,
You know that?
you have told me that.
Like have. Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go.
Like have a phobia of birds. Like I do not like them.
Yeah, like it's a real thing for you.
It's a real gal, and like one time I went into the aviary at the Atlanta Zoo because it wasn't my intentions to go in there. I didn't know where I was going. My sister kind of finessed me in there.
Nice.
The worst experience of my life, by the way.
What happened?
Because they're literally flying all around your head. You're in like a huge bird cage.
Oh yeah.
And they're all just flying around you. It's awful. The worst experience of my life. But these guys aren't so bad. They're actually more dinosaurs than they are birds, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
They really are.
they're kind of intense. Like even the sounds that they make are very like prehistoric.
Yeah. Is that what that sound was? I didn't know if that was them or like something else.
The grunting sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make this really like unique grunt.
That's so weird.
And they'll hiss at you and stuff, which is really weird.
Yeah.
But I love like the
Ooh.
yeah, you hear them hissing.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's very strange.
It sounds like
They're all females, so
Oh.
maybe they all like
Oh.
shit. Maybe they don't like each other, clearly.
Everyone
Hey,
just
you guys
watching.
knock it off.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah.
It looks. I mean, that enclosure looks great though, man. Like, it's really
thank you.
cool. Yeah.
So you'll kind of notice the idea for all of the rock work back here. I wanted it to look artificial, and it's kind of hard in game. So it's weird because usually my complaint in the game is that things aren't realistic enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the rock work that they've done is like so awesome that it's really hard to try to make it look fake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the rocks are they're so good. So kind of what I put in here just to give it the illusion that it's not natural is we kind of put some of the plaster down at the very bottom. Like this little pond is very shallow.
Yeah, I love that.
So I wanted this. I was hoping that if I could give the illusion that the water was fake, that you just kind of assumed that the rock work and stuff was fake as well.
Yeah. Well, you've done a good job with the rock work looking fake, especially with the very back fence, how it's like just that very straight line, and that's hard to like, getting some rock work to look man-made, which seems so backwards. Like it's hard to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks great. Did a good job.
I appreciate it. So I wanted to kind of highlight some of the blueprints that I used here. So we do have in the DLC, we got some new plants, which is the century plant, which has been your gig lately, right?
Yeah. Love it.
At least you said so.
Yeah.
And you've been spamming these around Balboa, and they look phenomenal. Like they look so good.
I love it so much.
But Vagaga, I'm not quite sure how they pronounce her name, but he or she, they made this blueprint here, which is basically a bunch of the in-game century plants, 10 of them to be exact, and they rotated them, made it appear like a much larger plant. But he also crafted these amazing custom. I guess this is maybe what they look like when they're blooming.
Yeah.
But these are made out of like some of the DLC pieces. So you have some of the new plants here, but you also he's colored these metal rods to make them look like branches.
That's
How
insane.
crazy is that?
That's insane. You know what? These are really nice because it's one of those things where, there's a lot of other custom plants that look kind of, great from afar, but even as you go closer, like these ones look really good.
Yes, they look amazing.
Yeah.
Like even when I initially looked at this piece, I'm like, okay, what the heck is this? Like I was really trying to figure out, because when I download something like this from the workshop, I like to see if I can figure out what pieces they used before I actually click on it and like figure it out myself.
Yeah.
But I could not figure this out. I'm like, I have no idea what he or she used for the branches here.
Yeah.
Very, very clever way to use that. And I mean, the color match on that and the bamboo
It's spot on.
A1.
That's awesome.
So we kind of just spammed some of their blueprints around this area. A lot of this stuff is in-game. We ended up carrying over a lot of the trees that we've used in some other projects. I think we've actually used them in Pelosa. You've used them in Balboa a lot because they're very tropical. But that's the custom foliage pack by Mealy, I guess is how you say their name.
Yes.
But it's like these array of palms, especially these very larger ones in the back. Love those with the beards on them. But we kind of used a mix of their pack and then also Thrive's Florida Plants pack, which is very awesome.
Yes, those are awesome. Love those.
Because I actually grew up maybe like 10, 15 minutes from the the Florida line. So we were really close to the beach, and you would see a lot of these like roadside attractions for like alligator farms and emu farms and stuff like that. So that's, I mean, obviously this is a lot more themed than what you would see at one of those places, but that's kind of the idea that I wanted. I didn't want it to be big. I just wanted it to be like a small, like roadside style attraction.
Yeah, well, and I like what you did because you really showcased how this DLC can go with the other things that are already in the game and other things that other creators have made and have them available in the workshop. So I think this is really realistic. You know, it's like this doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, somewhere in Australia. This could be kind of anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. That was, I didn't want it, even though it's in the, I really only did it in the Australia map because I wanted the ground textures in order to blend it with the pathing. But my vision for this is that it would not have been in Australia. It would have been in California or Florida or you know, like maybe even like I said, it was intended to be a roadside type, very small attraction, but it could also be in like any zoo in America, I guess.
Totally.
Some of the other pieces, and probably my favorite piece so far in this DLC is this like rustic, very orangey red fence.
Yes.
It's amazing. Like, for everything that I love about, you know, creating in this game, this is exactly the stuff that I look for. These smaller, realistic fence pieces, because I've seen them used in just an array of things, like not even as fences.
Oh, yeah.
I think somebody used it as like a texture on the wall, like if you stack them a certain way and rotate them, like it's just, but the texture on the actual piece itself is very, very good.
Yeah.
So it can grab really my eye, just because like even look at the welds here.
Yeah.
Are different on the middle and on the top. Like they're super, super detailed, and that's what I love.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing with this little casserole piece. It's very rustic. But yeah, I mean, these textures, man, they really knocked it out.
They really did. They're awesome.
Hate these benches, but I threw them in here anyways. This like overly themed stuff, it's just not my favorite part of the game, but for the pack, I appreciate it because this definitely gives the players who like to use these like a bunch of different themes to work with. So
yeah,
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is kind of the other side of that building. So initially this would have, I don't even know what this would have been, maybe like a storage barn, or maybe even really a house like back in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
So they've closed off a main portion of it to where you can come here and buy a magazine, but you would actually go inside to pay, and it's just like a small market. Like you would come here and you could get just like they would sell fresh fruit and chips, and not have like a full kitchen in the back, but just like picnic type stuff.
No, I dig that a lot.
So these, of course, are by Mr. Domez. I think we've all used these at some point in time.
Yep.
They're everywhere. Like, I swear, every video I see on YouTube, I see these in there. They have to be like the most downloaded piece ever.
Oh yeah.
And then the same thing with the Press-A-Penny. This is actually by Sparkle. We have these in Pelosa as well. I love this. It's very realistic. I would use them everywhere if I could.
love those.
So I actually tried to finesse with the pathing up here, but the people were like clipping through everywhere. It was a mess. So I put in this little blueprint of a picnic table that I made, but these are the in-game umbrellas.
Oh, that looks great.
Yeah, these aren't functional. They're a piece.
Ooh, I like.
Yeah.
I will steal.
Yeah, I'll throw them on the workshop just because they're great for, like obviously you wouldn't want to use them everywhere, but if you have just an area where you have like just a tough path connection, you can just throw one of these, and then the rest of the path could have the real benches, and you wouldn't even know, to be honest.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I feel like we need to talk about these gum trees.
Oof. Yes, we do.
How do you feel about them?
I feel very, very like good about them. I love those, and I didn't expect to like those.
Do they tickle your fancy?
What'd you say?
I said, do they tickle your fancy?
They do. They tickle a lot of.
I feel like they do.
Just kidding.
I noticed as soon as this pack dropped, you immediately opened up Balboa and was like, delete, and just like replaced a bunch of trees with these.
I mean, I deleted like everything in the front, and well, it was
They're
one of those.
So good.
Yeah, it was one of those things, and I thought that I was really gonna love like the eucalyptus ones, which I do. I love those, but I didn't even think that I would use the gum tree ones. But man,
I didn't either.
I love them.
But I was the second that I actually got in here and I was able to play with them. Mm-hmm. The size of them is perfect. The array of sizes, because you have a sapling, you have like a mid-size, you have a larger size. It's just they're great. Yeah. And I do love the eucalyptus trees, but some of them are very, very large, so you kind of have to use them as like a backdrop, and like I couldn't put the larger one right here because it would take up this whole path almost.
Yeah, well, and
like it's very big.
Yeah, and maybe I'm not super maybe I'm only familiar with a certain kind of eucalyptus, but some of the ones that they put in, like the way that they're kind of sprawled out, is not what I'm used to when I think of eucalyptus. So but yeah, I mean, I think it's great that they kind of, provided us with a bunch of different sizes, and then we can kind of just use what we want. But yeah, they are pretty big.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say, the second that I actually started to play with them in game, I was like, oh, Remnant is definitely about to put some of these in Balboa. Mm-hmm. It's got that same aesthetic, and I'm so glad that they put those in.
Same. Yeah, it's awesome. I wasn't expecting that, for sure.
So this is our second exhibit, and it is the Dingoes,
Love it.
Which they have probably some of the best animations of really any of the animals that I've seen in game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the reason why is they will literally form packs with each other.
Wow.
Yes, and they interact with each other like in ways that a lot of the other animals do not, and it's super, super cute.
Oh.
So we tried to carry over this same little theme. So we just honestly, this whole area is themed exactly the same, which was intended.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a little viewing plaza here, and unfortunately, the path actually ends about right here. This is as close as I could get it. So people do come and use it, but they're not standing like right here at the fence.
Oh, okay.
Which sucks, but it still serves its purpose for sure. Okay, where are they at? Oh, here they are. I was like, did they leave? They may be down here in their den. No.
Oh, that's awesome.
Their ball is down there though, which is weird. I wonder if they can get that out. So a couple of new things that they gave us for enrichment items is this little bubble machine.
Yes.
I wish that, let me see if I can move it and see if I can get them to play with it, because it is like super cute. They will literally like jump up and like bite at the bubbles. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't. These guys are a lot smaller than I thought they'd be. They look a little smaller.
One of these cubs is a real shit, and his name is Hudson. And I didn't name him that. The game named him that. That's Patrick. But they break out all the time, and I'm like, I don't know where they're getting out as. That's probably him taking a deuce. Yep, that's Hudson.
Oh, Hudson.
So he started it. Like, I think I told you when I was working on this exhibit, the other side, I could not get the water to go back in.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure it out. Like, I literally redid the barriers. I did everything. And I'm like, why will the water not go in here? It's because he was hiding under a rock. Like, he was literally sleeping under a rock. And I'm like, okay. But him and Patrick have like a little pack going. So they like, anywhere that Patrick goes, Hudson goes. Anywhere that Hudson goes, Patrick goes. It's really cute.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh.
Did you see him howling?
Yes, while running. Oh my gosh. So are these animations different than like the wolves? Because I've never played around with those.
I haven't either, so I'm not sure. I don't know. I want to say that the whole pack thing was new.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Okay.
But I don't know if maybe it was integrated with like the wolves as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they can now form packs, because that would make sense. Like a wolf pack to me is like the ultimate pack.
Yeah. This is cute.
But yeah, they come down here and sleep, and this is kind of their, if they need to get away from the guests, they'll come down here and hang out for a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they really spend a lot of their time up here. Are you going to play with the bubbles? Do it.
He's thinking about it. Oh my gosh.
Isn't that cute?
Yes. Ugh.
They'll literally do this for a while. And then their little tug rope over here, it actually spins around. The rope does. So they'll be up here like spinning it around and jumping and swinging it all over the place.
Oh my
it's cute.
gosh. I love it.
So we threw some more. Sorry. We threw some more of the gum trees in here just to try to bring in some life into the exhibit that's not like a ground plant.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay. It kind of gives the exhibit some depth a little bit.
Yeah, it gives them some like shade too.
Yeah. So this is, they do have some water in here as well. And the way that I wanted to, you can kind of see the other exhibit on the other side. We have some saltwater crocodiles.
That's sick.
But I really wanted it to look like, as like a visitor, that this is one exhibit.
Yeah.
Because you can't see the barrier underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
Another little feature I added were these little drains down in the bottom of the ponds.
Yes.
So like, obviously with this being artificial, there may be times that they have to empty it and scrub it and clean it. Or whatever the case may be. So kind of brought in some of that, or carried over that artificial rock work all over the place. And you can tell by how like straight and perfect the lines are.
Yeah.
That was all intentional.
I dig that.
We have another little viewing plaza here, very similar, and then one on the other side. And then this awning, people might be seeing again very, very soon. I've actually used it in another project. We're going to leave that undisclosed right now just because we're still working out some of the details on it. And me and this person are both perfectionists. So it has to be perfect before we can even release an episode or any information on it. So, but it's coming.
All right.
If you're on the Discord, you have definitely seen teasers for it.
Yes.
So that will be happening pretty soon, I think.
Good to know.
Good to know. Put that in your little pipe and smoke it. No, don't do that because it might be illegal where you live.
Very true.
So, another second path texture we got was this one here. Very unique. I honestly don't know where I would use this anywhere other than here.
Yeah.
I say that now, just, I don't know. I don't really use the path textures like that. I use the black asphalt one and I use the concrete one really. I don't really vary outside of those. How about you?
You know what? The only time that I kind of do venture outside of those is when I really dig the railing.
Yes.
And I love the railing of this one and also like the curb. So, I mean, I feel like if I were to use it, I would probably just cover up the
actual path.
The actual path. Yeah.
Same.
Because we don't really have a railing like this, which I really like. Like this kind of made me want to go into, like Balboa and change up some of the stuff that I've done.
All of the elevated pathing
like
around
all of them.
Yes, I knew you would. Because I'm like you, this railing, and it's very similar. You can see to this rusted rail. It's got that same just like straight lines, which I know you appreciate.
Yes.
And I appreciate too.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it because we, I think we both kind of gravitate more toward that, but also like there's nothing else that's like that. And I feel like in zoos you see more of this kind of railing than the other kind of railing that's already in the game.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that was one of the big reasons that I ended up using this here. Obviously, I wanted to showcase it because it is the like DLC video, but I also was not mad at the railing. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah,
and
it is.
For some reason, it didn't even dawn on me to just cover up the actual ground path and still use the railing, and I would definitely be doing that.
Yeah.
So some other pieces we got here were these little signs. So we have one for each of the animals that they released. So we put the dingo one here. I wish there was one for the crocodile, but obviously I think that was in the base game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our other viewing plaza here. So it's kind of like you have a destination here, you have a destination here. You come across, you go back, you leave, you stop and get some lunch, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it looks great.
So I know that these weren't technically part of the DLC, but this kind of goes back to that like roadside gator farm that I was telling you about. And the saltwater crocodile is actually a very prominent like species, I guess, in Australia. Like if you Google, you know, species in Australia, this is one of the first things that pops up. So I felt like it was fitting, even though it technically did not come with the DLC.
Yeah, it's freaking me out how fast they're going.
It's because there's barely any water in here.
I love it, but it's really funny.
And you hear how their little like claws slap the concrete. Yeah. So they don't swim in here because it's not deep enough. They'll just like float and walk.
They just like wade in the water. That's awesome.
Yep.
Though. Looks cool.
So another little piece we got were these plants here.
Yes.
These are the Australian fan palms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of waiting. I know somebody's going to make a much larger, more realistic like style bush of this, or I don't know if they even come in like bushes or if they're really just like this. But I do love the texture on it. I love how the leaves are bent, and I feel like I have seen one of these before, and this is how they look. Like the leaves are so heavy that they kind of bend on the edges like that.
Yeah.
So up here we have like their little feeding area, and then they have some little mud pits. But I also did like, and it's kind of cheesy, like some stuff that you would see in these like Florida roadside exhibits is they're always like talking about, oh, visit this sister exhibit or whatever the case may be. So we kind of did like a nod to Balboa here. Where it's like just like a big, stupid, annoying
I love it because it's like so obvious.
Oh yeah, it's like totally in your face, which was lovely.
I appreciate the nod.
You're welcome. So a lot of you can actually sink really anything into this sheet metal, and it kind of gives the illusion that it's been painted on, which is cool.
That's so. I would not have thought of doing that. So those are. That's not a sign. That's like the actual letters, right?
Yeah. So these are the in-game letters.
Wow.
And you just sink them to where they're barely showing through the front of really anything. I use this little corrugated sheet metal.
Wow.
So yeah, once you sink it through, like the letters just barely bleed through.
I love that.
I want to say, I don't know if he was the first person that did it, but the person that I saw do this first for me was Remnant. I think not Remnant. God, Ruble. Okay. I think he dropped them, or he put them on a roof of the DLC project that he was working on.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if the letters bled through or not like this, but I liked them being on the roof. So they actually, the first time I did it was on that building up at the front. But I love the effect, and I'm like, it could totally work as like a wall piece too.
Yeah. And I love that some of the letters, like, it looks like some of them are a little bit more faded than the other ones, and it just like adds to the realism.
Yeah. So what we did, this whole wall is kind of at a curve, which naturally even though I placed each letter, they naturally weren't all at the same angle, especially if it's on like a corner that is being curved. So that's why like the S is like that, because if I try to pull it out any further, you can't see any of the corrugated lines through it. So
I see.
It was a nice little feature.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Or a little effect.
And then so do the alligator or the crocodiles, do those go, like, they can climb up there too?
They did. So I ended up adding this kind of last minute because I was having trouble closing off this area. But now it's like their traversable area stops at about the L. So they don't go up there anymore. I could probably fool around with it and get it to work again. But yeah, at first, I mean, they would walk up here, they would come eat, take a little mud bath, or come up this way. It was pretty
sick. Cool. It looks great, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I mean, I wanted to keep this kind of short and just really showcase the pieces, some new pieces from the DLC. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yes.
And it's really simply for the details of the rust for me. Like literally $10, I would have bought it just for these fences.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's what I look for in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think I think a lot of the pieces are really just so versatile. And for me, it's the foliage that sold me. But yeah, it all like works together so well.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then before we go, one of the last blueprints that I used here was, it was actually intended to be, let me see what he actually has it marked as, because it's not just a windmill.
Oh, okay.
It has like another piece to it. And it's by Bobson. It's the Australian Outback Windmill Water Pump.
That looks great.
That is a mouthful. It really looks awesome. It's kind of large, which is why I used it more as like a backdrop piece instead of like closer to where the people can get, because once you actually get over here, it's pretty big.
Well, it's great. It looks cool.
Yeah, but these things are big like this, so
yeah.
I mean, I feel like the scale, he or she nailed it. And yeah, it works. I mean, it kind of gives that sight line that I was looking for.
Yeah, it kind of looks like, like a destination. And what's kind of cool about that is it could have been one of those things where it's like it was probably already on the property and then they just moved it to kind of, make it a piece.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Bury that. Like, my thing is, all of this was probably, and here's kind of like an overview of the exhibit. So you have the casseroles up here. And by the way, I know that that's not what they're called. They will forever be casseroles to me.
Well, I mean, that's
you
good.
You have the dingoes and then the crocs.
I love it.
So my idea, and that does make sense now that you said that maybe this was moved, or honestly, maybe this is where it's always been.
Yeah.
And this was all just like farming land that was excavated out for exhibits.
Yeah. So nice.
But yeah, I know we didn't look at every little piece. There's so many DLC reviews out there, so I'm sure, if people wanted to see everything that came with the DLC, a great one to look at is Mass Bandit. He went over everything in very, very thorough detail.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll link that one in the description just in case for some reason you stumbled across mine before his, which I find hard to believe. But just in case, or if you just want like a refresher of all the pieces, his is a great video to look at.
Yeah, he also did like a really great, I think, like a little series on like all of the new animals.
Yes, he has, and he's been releasing them kind of like one by one, so which I really enjoy because it gives me something to watch on my lunch break.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss. I think he's actually done with all of them now, unless he's doing one for the blue-tongued skink or lizard or whatever it was.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that. Game. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, he's done them for the kangaroos, the dingoes, the koalas, and they're all so unique. And again, they kind of showcase all of the pieces as well. So
yeah. For sure.
But that's pretty much it. I really just wanted to kind of use some of the pieces here and just show how they can be used and how versatile they are.
Honestly, it looks great. I love it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like I said, it took me a while. I've probably started this project like 3 or 4 times because I hated everything that I did up until I got this building going, and then I got the first curvature of the path, and I was like, okay, this can work. And like most people say, you got to stick with it sometimes and just see it through. And the more that I played around with it and the more that I added, the more that I started to like it. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Well, and you totally went, against what you usually do. So, and it looks great. It doesn't even seem like, you had any trouble. So it's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that is it. Thank you so much for coming to hang out. I asked you because I feel weird when I'm like in here talking by myself, like doing a solo video,
Same.
Because my fiance will just kind of poke his head in the door and be like, "You good?"
Like, what are you doing?
Good. Just talking to myself again. But it's always nice to kind of have you hang out and chat with me. So
yeah, man.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. So I guess we'll wrap it up. I'll end with some cinematic shots here and kind of doing some close-ups of like some of the exhibits and stuff that we could have spent a little bit more time at.
Yeah.
But we'll end with that. And we will go ahead and do that now. Thank you guys so much.
Yes. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.